have something to say about this new Pagani. I've had a little while to think about it, and I don't really like the car and the direction that Pagani is taking with it. I've loved Pagani and their cars for a while, a long time, and honestly, the Utopia is extremely underwhelming. The styling, which is one of the main pillars of Pagani's brand, is the part that lets me down the most. Overall, it looks like a rushed combination of elements from the Zonda, Huayra, and other cars. If you look closely at the Utopia, you can see that they were really kind of going for a more retro 60s look, especially in elements like the headlight, the greenhouse, and the rear fascia all display this style to some extent, but not as effectively as they could have. While the rear end oftentimes of the Coast and Promise in the stylistic direction the car could have taken, the rest of the car's styling clashes with each other too much. The greenhouse, when viewed from the side, appears too far forward on the car, and it clashes with the geometric fender lines. It appears as if Pagani took the Huayra's greenhouse and the Zonda's fenders, kind of squished them together, and called it a day. This attitude is carried throughout the design of the car, with pieces taken from the Huayra, the Zonda, and mashed together. Another kind of good example of this is the front of the car, which seems to borrow the fenders and frunk portion from the Zonda and the lower valance from the Huayra. As a result, I think that these choices in styling, the design seems rushed and doesn't flow as well as previous Paganis, like the Huayra especially. I think that my biggest kind of personal issue with the Utopia, however, is how it was intended to capture more 1960s inspired styling, to emulate the spirit of old Ferraris and other cars of the era. While it succeeded in this to some extent, I ultimately think that companies like Ferrari, Koenigsegg, Di Tommaso do this type of heritage retro-focused car better than Pagani has with the Utopia. I think, however, that the problem with the Utopia is in Pagani and how it is managed itself. And while Horatio has done something admirable with leading the company through the past 20 or so years and building it up to what it is and kind of the image of Pagani, I think that there needs to be more of a focus on moving the company forward, and I feel like that Pagani has kind of stagnated, especially in the past 5 or 10 years. Stylistically, I think that they're moving backwards from the Huayra and the Zonda, and I think that they're still, in regards to technology, they're still somewhat stuck in the 1990s and 2000s, just kind of in how their cars look, but also in the technology that is incorporated into them. They've been really slow adapting more hybrid technology, more electric technology, and I kind of feel like that in the next 20 years, as stuff moves more towards electric cars, that they'll have a tough time keeping up as a result of a lot of their biggest markets like New York and California kind of forcing car makers to move on to electric cars, rightfully or wrongfully. They're not innovating at a level that they'll be able to keep up with everyone else. And I think that they need to look more into electric technology if they want to stick around. However, I feel like Pagani is still a relatively small company, and all the money that they put back into development and R&D and making the best cars that they can will, if they focus it a little better, I think that they can turn it around and really come with some strong offerings in the next 5 or 10 years. So honestly, I feel like they can 100% bounce back as long as they are able to define their styling a little more than they have been able to on this current car. And I mean, I've loved Pagani and the cars that they made for as long as I can remember. And I think that the Utopia, was just a rush job, and that they have a strong future. And the problem with the Utopia really isn't just, Pagani's stagnated. It's supercars on that sort of level, the $2 to $5 billion, like they're not special anymore almost. Like when the Veyron came out, when the F1 came out, those were like landmark cars. But now it's just another car that nobody will really able to afford, and that everything's pretty much been done. So I think that everyone's kind of a little jaded, and something new needs to come, and Pagani isn't really bringing that to the table. Anyways, thanks for listening. Bye.